Hi, this is Donna with the Waldorf Connection, and welcome back to our next training video. And this is all about the most common mistakes that beginners make when getting ready or getting set up to do Waldorf homeschooling. So if you listen to my last training video, I went over the 6 pieces or the 6 steps to have in place so that you can have a successful, strong, amazing homeschool for your child. Now here I want to go over some of the biggest mistakes that you could make, and I want you to avoid that. So you can learn from my experience here, and I don't want you to fall into the same pitfalls because these are pretty common, and I want you to kind of bypass that, thus the training. So let me get started here, and the very first one, we talked a little bit about it in the last video, but I think it's one of the biggest mistakes, and that is not understanding the whys. And I think just jumping in to this and saying I am going to homeschool, and and not really understanding the foundation of it, not understanding what it's all about and why you have to do it, could be one of the could be a sort of a make or break, because especially if you want your family support and you need them to support you, you also need them to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you may say, why is she talking about this so much, about the support? But once you get in there, you're in your home, you're alone, you're not just dropping your child off to school, and you're not going into a place where you're just around other moms and other people who are doing the same thing you're doing every day. You're sort of there in a vacuum. And I don't want you to be there in a vacuum, thus getting the support in the community, but not understanding what's happening or why you should be doing what you're doing could be, something that disconnects your family and your friends and your spouse from what you are doing. And I want them to support you because it's such an amazing education model, and I want you to be able to, be there for your child and bring Waldorf to your child. So for you to understand what's happening, you have to be able to go back and explain it to them. And if you don't get it, then it's going to be really hard for them to get it, because you're the one who's doing the research, you're reading about it, you're finding about stuff, and then you're trying to turn around and just it's sort of like that when you're telling a story in a circle and you start whispering in someone's ear. By the time it gets around, the story's totally different. So that's kind of here. If you just heard some hearsay, well, my friend said it was really good and her child's doing great and blah, 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 and then by the time that passes along, it's not getting the full, they're not getting the full benefit of understanding, how amazing Waldorf really is. So understanding that foundation, having that thing in place, and all these little whys behind what you do, and as you go, things change. In each grade, there's different things that are put into place, and different things that your child is learning, and that will depend on where they are in their development. And it's amazing, I think, to see how it really meets the child in such an amazing way, and it just gives them the exact food and nourishment for their soul and their body, which is what I love so much about this form of education. It's not just about reading or academics. It nourishes your child, body, mind, and soul, with the movement and the songs and the verses and the art and the right stories that feed your child just what they need and help them get through and grow and develop in such an amazing way. I could get off my soapbox there, but anyway, not understanding the whys is one of the big things. Okay, this is another big one. Buying too much stuff. And I definitely was guilty of this in the beginning. Everything looks great, right? You're suddenly surrounded with websites and catalogs and beautiful things, and you want everything. You want to bring in all that, play silks and toys and natural things, and then on top of that, you've got to get, the main lesson books and the paint and the crayons and the watercolors and the paint brushes, and there are a lot of things that need to be purchased, and that doesn't even include your main lessons and your actual curriculum and books. But I have been one of those that just buys like so much. You know, in the beginning, I bought like 3 different types of curriculum, plus I had other supplementary books. And I was like, you know, I got through my first year and I was like, I didn't even open that book, you know. And sometimes you just don't know. And you don't know, especially in the beginning. You don't know what curriculum is going to work for you. And, you know, in the Waldorf Homeschool U course, we go through the how to figure out what curriculum will work for you so that you don't end up spending a lot of money on something that doesn't work. And, you know, I'm just trying to say, don't buy too many things. You know, you can buy 1 book on knitting, but you don't need 12 books on knitting. You know, and I think we just see so many beautiful things and, oh, this more is going to help us. But all it ends up doing is creating, you know, a big stack of books on your desk or on your table, and you're looking at it like, you know, what am I supposed to do with all of this? And it just ends up being more, you know, overwhelming. And following 2 different curriculums or 3 different curriculums, it's impossible, because the curriculums are set up so different. Even as far as what's covered in one year in one curriculum might not even be covered until the next year in another curriculum. So if you're trying to mesh things together, it can be really hard, and it can be really just kind of frustrating, because you see all this stuff and you know it's supposed to be working for you and it's not. So buying too much. So, you know, getting those main things that you need, those tried and true books that I've used for years and years, you know, the same things I come to again and again, and some of the other ones I've just sort of weeded out and like, okay, I never even use that. You know, I can give you a list of those books and the main supplies and things that you have to have that that you'll actually use. You know, it's nice to have other little things to back it up, but not necessary. Or you can just purchase some other things as you go along through the years. But if you're just getting started, you know, there's sort of a core package of things that you need. And then after that, you can just add slowly. You don't have to buy everything all at once. I remember when my first grade, I had to place this order of all the stuff I was going to order in August, you know, and I had a list. You know, and I ordered everything, and then most of it just sat there, and I thought, well, I didn't even need that till January. I didn't even need that till March. I didn't have to have everything. You know, it's nice to have a list of your materials, but as far as if you want to space things out, you know, for budgetary reasons, you know, if you're not going to begin knitting until the winter of first grade, then you don't have to buy all of the supplies and the knitting and the yarn and the needles and everything, you know, in August. You can wait and, you know, get that later on and kind of just get what you absolutely have to get up front, and then, you know, purchase things as you go. All right, number 3, comparing yourself to others. This is another one that I did in the beginning, and every once in a while, especially in the summertime when I'm looking for ideas for school, I'll start like searching other blogs and looking around on the internet, and I'll come to the site where I just go, these people must be artists, you know, or they have all the time in the world on their hands, because how in the world do they make those amazing pictures? And their main lesson books are just, you know, like works of art. And, you know, what I've found over the years is that you have certain strengths, and you have things about you that make you special. And that doesn't mean, you know, that you're any less than the person over here, because what you can do, the other person can't do. And so what I've come to recognize is I have certain things that I'm really good at, and then some things I'm not. And so instead of like beating myself up about, oh, if only my math skills were better, you may have heard me say that before. You know I'm great with music. I can play the flute, and I sang many, many years, so I can read music, and and I'm good at art, and I can do certain things. And there are other things like foreign language I'm not so great at. So I take my strengths and I use those, and then I get help and support with some of the things I'm not so good at. And especially in the beginning when you're just getting started, you can't expect that your everything is going to be like, you know, you just step into the world of Waldorf and here it is. Wave the magic wand and your chalkboard drawings, you know, look just like the teachers who've been doing it for 20 years. You know, it just isn't going to happen. And so having those expectations, you know, obviously you want to improve and have a goal and work towards something, but not have such unrealistic expectations and then feel bad and comparing yourself to other people and seeing what other people are doing. You have to take into account your situation, how long you've been doing it, how much time you have to put into it. The person who has one child, and it is not working or doing anything else, has a lot more time than the person who has 4 children and maybe is a single mom and trying to, get everything, or maybe has to work part-time or something. So, you have to take all of that into consideration and not compare yourself to others when it comes to this. And I think it can be really daunting, and you could feel like, oh, there's no way I can do this because I can't do that. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to hold yourself up to this perfect Waldorf family. You might think, and I did in the beginning too, that this family they must just like waltz through the day singing and dancing, baking bread, and flowing silks and ringing bells and this whole thing. But you know what? The reality is nobody lives like that. And my family included. There's still arguments happening. There's still days when I just go, okay, you know what? Let's just can everything and we're going to go outside and go to the beach. Things happen, and no matter how good you have everything planned and everything, you're not living in some kind of fantasy world. You're at home, and even comparing yourself to a school is not the same, because a teacher goes to work and that's her job and that's what she's doing, and she's not being interrupted by the UPS man and the phone ringing and the baby crying. You are at home, you're trying to make this work in a home environment, and it's a lot different than looking at a Waldorf school or looking at someone maybe who's been doing it a longer time. Or, blogs can be deceiving. Everything that's on a blog is your best work. It's not the everyday life. So just keep that in mind. All right, number 4 is trying to do it all at once. So this is, when you first get started, it may look like there are a lot of things that you have to do, and there is, as far as learning. There's sort of this learning curve at the beginning. First you have to get your rhythm in. Then you have to get the homeschool. All the things I talked about in the previous video. There were a lot of things to get started in, and then learning how to present the material. How do I do a chalkboard drawing? How do I wet on wet paint? What do I do with these block crayons and beeswax and circle time? It could be like, Kelgon, take me away. How do I do all this? So, trying to just say, all right, we're just going to plow in and do everything, is like trying to reorganize your entire house in one weekend. It doesn't work, because one thing snowballs and leads to another, and before long, the entire house is a wreck. But you could work on one room, or one dresser in your room, one closet in your room. It's getting that one piece in place. And this is just like rhythm. It was like me trying to rewrite my entire day of rhythm with that old schedule every 15 minutes. And I was going to just throw out everything we already did and just write everything up and follow this to the T. It just doesn't work. You have to take your strengths, what you're good at, and kind of work into that. And if there's a place over here that you're a little more need some help with, or don't know how to play the recorder, then you got to take a look at that, and you have to take a look at what is the very next thing I need to be bringing to my child, and not look 3 years down the road. If your child is 5, you don't have to worry so much about the actual academics. You can take time getting your rhythm in place, getting some of these materials, getting a circle time for your young one in place and understanding that, and maybe a little bit of painting. You don't have to, worry about planning and main lesson, because you have a couple years away from that. But getting those main things in place and then start building, that's what I did, even though I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I had a couple years, so I started with the very basics, and then I worked my way up, and I felt by the time first grade came, I was ready. And I already had a lot of that in place. So I encourage you to try to take it in pieces and not how to just do it all at one time, because you'll just you'll throw your hands up and say, I can't do this. And I don't know how you could. I mean, Waldorf teachers are trained. They have years of training. They don't just, spend a month or two and then just try to figure it all out. It doesn't work that way. All right, and the very last thing, which may be the most important, doing it alone. And as I said in the other video, trying to homeschool by yourself with no support, with no community, with no backup or no person to call or place to come and vent or voice or ask questions, it's really hard, because you just are there and you have no idea if you're doing it right, if you're doing it wrong. You see your child maybe that is getting it or not getting it, but there are so many little things that could come up along the way. And if you just had someone to ask, or could just have that sounding board, or just feel like I am supported and I'm not here by myself. Even a Waldorf teacher has a mentor and has other teachers around them. They're not just like, here you go, try to figure it all out by yourself and don't ask us questions. It doesn't work like that. So, I don't know why we feel like we have to be these super moms and these super teachers and, well, if we can't figure it out ourselves, there must be something wrong with us. No. You wouldn't go to a brand new job and they wouldn't just set you down in a seat and say, okay, have fun and figure it out. Hopefully they wouldn't. And so it's the same with you. You don't just, waltz in and start teaching. You might say, oh, well, I know how to read and I know how to do math and I can, teach my child. And that's true. But there are a lot of things, as you see from this video and the other video, that have to go in place if you want to bring this Waldorf model to your child. And having someone to support you, and whether that's your family, and I include that, your family who's, your cheerleader, oh, you can do it, if you had a bad day, it's all right, the kids are doing great, and, just having your family there supporting you rather than, I don't know, she's not doing so good over there, and I'm a little worried, maybe we need to put that child back in school, or, let's make maybe there's, something wrong. Having your family as for support and having a Waldorf family as a support is very, very important. And one of the number one things to keep you going, because in the beginning it's all exciting and it's going to be fun, and then you get into it and you have those days where like things aren't going right. About halfway through you might be like, oh, can I continue to do this? I just don't know. There's so many times when it could just feel so overwhelming, and just by getting just talking to someone or just getting a few questions answered can make all the difference in the world. And trying to figure this all out by yourself, as you can see, I've been talking now on these videos, and I'm just skimming the surface of what actually has to be learned and what has to be taken in by you so that you can bring to your child. So there are 5 of the biggest mistakes, and this doing it alone really kind of segues into what I'm going to be talking about here as far as our brand new course that I am offering, and that is the Waldorf Homeschool U. It's a 6-week online course where I'll be going into depth into all of those 6 steps and pieces, and giving you the templates and the handouts and the workbooks, and giving you the step-by-step instructions so that you can take what I'm saying and say, okay, here's what I need to learn, here's what I need to do, here's the order I need to do it in, here is the list of materials that I need to start budgeting for. This is the first thing I need to do. Here's how I set up my daily rhythm. Here's how I set up my weekly rhythm. Here's how I set up the homeschool. And having all of that, having someone right there to help. And we're going to go through that. I'm going to go through the course with you. Every week you get a new lesson. You can log in, download it. There's no certain time you have to come. Every week you can get the new lesson. We're doing it on audio, and also a PDF transcript and a PDF workbook, plus bonus handouts, meal plan ideas, book lists, so many great handouts that you'll have. It's just sort of filling in the blank in a lot of ways. And then you can take that list and say, okay, well, here's what I need. Here's the books that I need. Here's how I set up my plan. Here's the steps I need to plan out for my year. I don't have to try to go, okay, now I have to plan. I've tried to take all of the hard work and do it for you. The things that I can do. It is very organic, as I was saying in the first video, and there is a lot you have to do. So let me do a lot of it for you. Let me do the hard part for you and get all of that done so you don't have to do everything. There's going to be enough that you have to learn and do. So let me do the part that I can do. And I want to support you. I want you to be able to say yes to Waldorf homeschooling and not flounder around and be so frustrated that you can't make it work, because it is totally doable. So check out the information below. The course starts on October the 22nd, and I'd love to have you part of it. There are some great bonuses, and just, you know, the first time we ran this course, we had over 65 moms sign up. So it's an amazing course. We've turned around and made it even better by listening to what the feedback from the first course is, and I've tried to do all of the hard work for you, so all you have to do is take what I've given you and run with it. And that's my hope for you. So check it all out, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.